Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us for today's devotional. I'm Doug Britton. I'm the Director of Family Life Ministries at Heights Church, and I just want to say what a delight it is to be able to share with you a story that to me is one of the most amazing stories in the Bible. The last couple of days we've been talking about the topic of risky faith. We've been going through Hebrews chapter 11, and we're continuing on chapter 11 to go into the story of Moses' parents. Now, Moses' parents were just regular people. They were like you, they were like me, they weren't some sort of super spiritual somebody or other. They were just regular people, but they were faced with an incredibly difficult situation. So let's take a look at Hebrews 11:23 that tells us how they dealt with that situation, how they had amazing faith, risky faith. So, a quick background. Pharaoh, or the king of Egypt, had told all the Egyptians that if they saw, or if there was a newborn Hebrew baby boy, they were supposed to drown that baby right away. In other words, kill the baby. Well, that's a hard thing for a parent to face, and Moses' parents had a baby. We read in verse 23, by faith Moses' parents hid him for 3 months. So even though the king said one thing, they said, no, we're not going to do that. But they hid him for 3 months after he was born because they saw he was no ordinary child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. Now we read more about this in each chapters 1 and 2 of Exodus. Quick summary. After a period of time, they realized they couldn't keep hiding Moses, so Moses' mom made a waterproof basket. She took him down to the Nile River, put him in the reeds so he wouldn't float away, I guess, and just put him into God's hands. She was trusting God. Long story short, Pharaoh's daughter came along, wanted the baby, made arrangements for actually Moses' mother to nurse the baby, which is a really cool thing. But eventually Moses' mother had to release the child, and Moses was raised in Pharaoh's court by Pharaoh's daughter as her son. So good results. He lived. Bad results, or hard results for Moses' mom anyway. He lived in the home of the enemy of the Hebrews, the people who were actually persecuting the Hebrews. Well, you might not ever face something quite like this. I hope you don't. But there might be times if you wonder, you're thinking, should I disobey the authority of the situation? That happens to many of us. This happened to me for sure. So here are 3 guidelines that might help you. Number 1, pray for discernment about whether or not to obey. The general theme in the Bible is certainly to honor and obey authority. It's just there throughout the Bible. But many of us don't like that, and we're always looking for ways not to obey authority. For example, taxes. There are Christians who say they won't pay income taxes because many reasons actually, but because the money is being spent for bad things, to pay for abortions, for example. Well, they make a pretty good point. But in Mark 12:14, Jesus was asked, is it okay or is it right to pay tithes, or to pay not tithes, but to pay taxes to Caesar? And he said, yes, even though Caesar was a really wicked dude and the money was used in a terrible way. So we want to be careful to respect and honor our leaders, but there are times when not obeying is the right thing. Moses' parents saved his life by not obeying. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to worship an idol. Peter said he wasn't going to stop talking about Jesus because the authority people told him he couldn't. He's going to keep talking about Jesus. So, number 1, pray for discernment. Should I obey? Should I not obey? Number 2, pray for wisdom about how to handle the situation. Moses' parents hid him. They took action silently. They didn't make a big deal about it, a big press release or anything. They just silently took action. I had a boss once who asked me to lie in the middle of a meeting. My boss, there's some other people around, and my boss made up a statistic and said, isn't that right, Doug? And I thought to myself, oh, no, because it wasn't true. So I said something along the lines of, well, we're very successful at such and such. So I didn't go along with the lie, but I didn't want to discredit her. I didn't want to make her look bad. I wanted to speak respectfully. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were about to be thrown into the fiery furnace, and they were talking to the king, and they didn't say, you rat. They said, your majesty. They talked to him with respect. How about if your spouse, your husband or your wife says, hey, let's watch pornography to spice up our sex life? Well, your response could be, "You sicko, I'm not going to do that." Or you could more politely, respectfully say, "Honey, I really love you, but my conscience won't let me do that. I just don't, I can't do it, but I sure love you." The way you talk, in other words, is important. So we talked about praying for discernment, praying for wisdom, and last, continue to trust God even if things don't work out the way you would like them to. The good news for Moses' parents was, well, Moses lived. The hard news, once again, was that he was being raised by their oppressors. Here's the closing thought. You don't know the big picture. You don't know the future. They didn't know what God was going to do with Moses, but God had an amazing future. Well, even though you don't know the big picture and you don't know the future, God does. And you can trust him. Absolutely. So I just want to say that I encourage you to think about these 3 steps and to be really wise when you're faced with these hard decisions. But don't be afraid. God is with you. He will help you. May God bless you.